is up, world? Welcome back to another episode of Talkative. And yes, I know it's been a while. It's been a while since the first episode. Bear with me. College just started back up a few weeks ago, and just my co-host was just dealing with life and issues in general. It's been hard to try to find a good rhythm and schedule for this show and for this podcast. So we're trying, but you know, I'm a man of my word, and I did say there was going to be an episode out this month. So even if this is another short episode, just bear with me that I'm trying to get things sorted with me and my friend, who is also the co-host for the show, and just to see where the schedule is going to be going for the weeks going forward. Because I want to have episodes out every single week, but life is gonna hit, and life is gonna hit hard sometimes, and you can't really control that, even to the best of your ability. But nevertheless, I'm back. We're back. The show is back. We never left. We just temporarily took a break to get our crap sorted, but we're back, and I have a few things that I would like to discuss, touch base on, and just have a good time overall in this second episode. I just want to say shout out to everyone who listened to the first episode, which was more like a prologue and introduction to what the show was going to be about. Just me talking a little bit about myself and introducing the show as a whole. Excuse me. But yeah, just had to have a sip of water real quick. Um, yeah, just talking about my cerebral palsy, overall disability, living with cerebral palsy, and just introducing you to Talkative. Which, if you're new here, this is a podcast where two guys, two friends, just talking about, yapping about what they love and enjoy, while emphasizing different passions within tech and disabilities that I have, touching base on those important topics and just expressing our own opinions. This is what Talkative is about, so welcome if you're brand new. But yeah, I mean, this episode we have a lot to talk about, or I have a lot to talk about, as my co-host won't be joining me today for this episode, unfortunately, but it's alright. For starts, I want to give my own personal thoughts and opinions on Donda, which is Kanye West's recent album, and that released back in the 28th of August, I'm pretty sure. And for me, this is our first Kanye listen. I've never listened to anything Kanye West before this, so it was definitely a treat. It was a treat listening to Kanye West for the first time. And I know Kanye is known for the gospel religious type field when it comes to his music. So that was definitely shown throughout this album. And a bunch of other things. I think my favorite tracks for sure have to be Hurricane with The Weeknd, Off the Grid, Junior, Okay Okay, Jesus Lord, and a few other ones. Personally, I feel like this album was the pinnacle of just different, quote unquote different. There was a lot going on in this album, and there's a lot that I really appreciate from this album, whether that includes the overall presentation, the monologues that some of the songs had, the homage being paid to Kanye's son, not son, excuse me, oh my god, mother, of course. So just all of that put together really, you know, came out with an amazing album. Just overall, the presentation was phenomenal. From the intro, which was a 50 second, I think it was a 50 seconds to like a minute of Donda being repeated over and over and over again. It was called Donda Chant. And at first, I found this really weird and just different because I've never heard anything like that. It was just a word being repeated over and over and over and over again. But it turns out, I read a post, an article on this, that was actually, and the psychology behind this was great and really deep. That the intro to Donda was the amount of heartbeats that Kanye West's mom had before her last moments on this planet, and it was 58. So that Donda chant was Donda being chanted 58 times, and that represented her actual heartbeats. And at first, I was like, wow, like the thought behind that is deep, but just again going back to the presentation, the way the message that Kanye wanted to convey, or just not only the message but like the symbol was pretty phenomenal. So that alone really set the tone for the album. Like I said, going back to the whole different, you know, representation that I have behind it, because that's what I take out of this album. This album for me at least, was definitely something different, something that I'm not used to listening in most cases, and just overall, like the lyrics, the beats, just the features that were featured in this album, the talent that was shown off from most of the young artists of today, like Fabio Foreign, The Weeknd, and just everyone else included, Travis Scott, and a few others. Phenomenal. I mean, they did phenomenal on their verses, on their features, and I feel like I said, a few of my favorite songs had to have been Hurricane, Junior, Okay Okay, and a few other tracks, Jail, Jesus Lord, mainly because of the features and just overall lyrics. I mean, it was just Kanye rapping about um his beliefs and just like symbolism and tragic past, and he wanted to tell a story. I feel like that's what this album was. It was Kanye West telling a story, Kanye West being a storyteller, and that's the type of crap that I live for. I love storytelling, I love symbolism, I love when artists put like little bits and pieces and little hints that represent some sort of psychology or symbolism, storytelling, because it adds more to just the music. It's not about lyrics, beats, presentation, and what have you, vocals and sounds. It's more about telling a story, which I think, going back to the 90s and the 80s, when rap was really more about that very concept, which is storytelling. People like Tupac and Biggie and all the other rappers from back in the day, they rapped about real life shit. They rapped about stories that they had to live for during their lifetimes. I feel like that's what this album was about, and I really, I dig into that type of stuff. And I know people are gonna have their opinions. There's gonna be some Kanye haters. There's gonna be some Kanye diehard fans. But hey, listen, to each their own. And that's how I see when it comes to music. I feel like, I mean, when it comes to anything in general, if somebody has an opinion about an artist, or if somebody feels a certain type of way towards an artist, or they really support this one artist that you probably don't, it, it's only the right thing to be respectful about it, And I feel like in most cases, not a lot of people respect other people's music opinions and just their beliefs as a whole, and they rather, you know, crap all over on their opinions and just cause controversy and just be negative, be toxic. And it's like, why? Like there's no need for you to trash talk me or just thrash on me because I like this artist that you probably don't like. So all of this is opinions. All of this is just how I personally feel about the album. You guys may feel otherwise, and that's okay. I'm not here to argue. This is a world where opinions need to be respected and just overall valued. And for me, I feel like the album was a 9 out of 10. Definitely replayable. There's a lot of tracks that I really enjoy, that I really would run back in the car, just chilling when I'm doing homework for college, and just go on Spotify and just put on the tracks, because I feel like that's what this album brought out: is replayability, storytelling, overall production to the max, and just it was a good album. It was a good album. Like I said, diehard Kanye fans are gonna probably really, really criticize the album to the T, and that's okay because it shows that you're not really biased, that there's no bias going on here, and that if you notice that a track isn't the best or that production isn't the best, you're gonna point it out, because you're being an honest fan to that artist, and that's all right. That's okay. But to me, since I've never listened to Kanye West, this album was definitely a treat for me, and yeah, not 9 out of 10. It's definitely a good album. I really, really enjoyed it. So that's the first talk for today. as now we're going to touch base on the pro wrestling world and where it has been for the past few months. The pro wrestling buzz that we've been having for the past few months, and it's been phenomenal. First of all, shout out to Tony Khan for doing what he's doing with AEW. You're doing me included and millions of pro wrestling fans out there a huge damn favor, and we applaud you for that. As you know, if you guys are pro wrestling fans or you're listening to this podcast, CM Punk, aka Phillip Brooks, made his anticipated return back to professional wrestling, and not with WWE in this case, with All Elite Wrestling. And it's like, wow, like it was speculated, it was anticipated, it was at this point it was already known that he was going to come back, but it still was a surprise to so many people when he came back a month ago in an episode of Rampage. And being the fact that they were live from Chicago, as you guys may know, all my pro wrestling fans out there, Chicago was one of the craziest crowds you could ever run into when it comes to like a pro wrestling show or pay-per-view. Hardcore wrestling fans, huge pops, and it's just such an active crowd, you know? Such a buzzing crowd when it comes to Chicago. And when CM Punk came out, man, I could just imagine being there live and hearing the pop, hearing the audience go crazy when Punk came out. And it's just like, even for the folks back at home like myself, just watching the clips on Twitter and just seeing people tweet about it, I felt that same emotion. I'm like, wow, I haven't seen this man with a mic in the wrestling ring in 7 years, and it felt great. And honestly, in terms of Punk, I like what he's doing with his return to professional wrestling. He's not really title hungry. He doesn't really have much to prove. He's done it all. He's proved it all. But he's here to just keep doing what he's loved the most. Keep doing what he dies for, what he's passionate about. But in the sense of showing off what the young talent have in store in the wrestling industry today. He's here to have some fun with the young talent, to have some 5-star caliber matches, and really give the young talent a chance. And to be honest, you don't see that from a lot of professional wrestling veterans or legends in today's day and age, as it's really all about the money. And that's the unfortunate part. That most legends that reappear in professional wrestling, they look at the Legends contract and they see, or the appearance, they look at the check before anything else, and they're like, okay, you want me to come back for this set of numbers? You want me to come back for this set amount of money? Let's do it. But really, what Punk is doing is, and please, you know, disagree with me if you want, but that's just how I see it. What Punk is doing in All Elite Wrestling is phenomenal. Obviously, he's been calling the shots to all the young talent in AEW, and he just wants to have matches with them. He just wants to wrestle with them. And that alone is great. It's great to see from a legend and veteran like Punk, as, you know, he had his first debut match at All Out, which is one of AEW's biggest pay-per-views, against Darby Allin, which, if you don't know who Darby Allin is, you could say he's like a modern day Abyss or a modern day Undertaker to an extent, but just he's quick, he's agile, he's hardcore, he's resilient. You know, all the matches that he has against Miro and everyone else that he's wrestling in AEW. Brian Cage, Brian Cage being Darby Allin's twice his size, being the bigger man, and just seeing Darby Allin, manage to hold up with Brian Cage. He's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal wrestler. I love his gimmick. Great gimmick. Being paired up with Sting, which is another, legend, icon in his own. And just the match with Punk was great. It was a good showcase of storytelling. It was a good showcase of, hey, you're the student and I'm the master type of thing. Punk being, doing this for over 15 years. Darby Allin relatively having a young tenure, young career. And just overall, it was great storytelling. And it's like, this is why AEW is what it is today. And I know AEW is a relatively young company, only has about 2 years in tenure and just overall um, just existence. But what they're doing with the writing and having Punk be like this, oh, man to beat type of thing, and have all the young talent call out Punk and have to wrestle Punk and just say, hey, you know, I'm this 22-year-old wrestler who's currently wrestling in AEW, but I'm proud to say that my first match was against somebody like CM Punk. The fact that all these young wrestlers are gonna have the chance to say that is the part that really, really makes people happy and makes me happy that Punk is in AEW. So shout out to the creative team, shout out to Tony Khan, and really shout out to Punk for not really taking this as another way to obtain revenue or income or just get championships. Like he's in this to have fun. He's in this to show off, to let the young talent have their spotlight, have their shine, and it's just phenomenal. But apart from Punk, we have two big prospects, two big appearances in AEW. One being Adam Cole. Now this one was definitely one that turned a lot of heads, and in some cases not really, because people were speculating, Adam Cole being a part of NXT, which is WWE's sort of like, well, they claim it's developmental, but honestly, if you watch NXT in the past, it's more than developmental. It's more like a third brand for WWE. And with him being there, usually all the NXT prospects go up to the main roster, extend their contracts, say to go to Raw or SmackDown. But this time it was a little different. And honestly, the reasoning behind it is completely understandable. I mean, if you look at both sides, NXT, when it comes to Adam Cole with NXT, he has a lot of friends and wrestlers they used to wrestle with in the past, and a lot of good people there. Correct. And WWE as a whole, in general. But when you look at All Elite Wrestling, you have people that Cole has been wrestling with or against for so many years, closest friends. In terms of the Elite, you have Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks. Not only that, you have your own girlfriend wrestling in the same company, Britt Baker. It wrestles in AEW with everyone else that Adam knows on a personal level. And it's like, obviously, when you look at those two things, it's safe to say where Adam Cole is going to be heading. And he even said this in the interview. Cole said, and I quote, going over there for the past few years, the past 4 years, was my dream back when I was 10 years old. This was obviously my dream. And not to talk bad on anyone that works there, anyone there, but they were phenomenal. They were great people to work with. But I knew from the start, from the bottom of my heart, that AEW was the place that I wanted to be. And, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. And it all goes back to what I said about what AEW has been doing in recent memory. As Cole also said that he's been seeing everything AEW has been doing. And he's taken liking to it. He's been enjoying it. So, at that point, when you're in Adam Cole's shoes, at that point you gotta think, okay, what they're doing is amazing. Why not join the fray? Why not be a part of the crew? And why not reunite with people that I've known for so long? And this is logical at that point. And to be honest, Cole being in AEW could have probably saved them from a lot of career threatening situations. And in the sense of the main roster right now with WWE is not what it used to be. Creative writing is not where it used to be 10 to 15 years ago. And I feel like somebody like Cole would have definitely had struggling success being in the main roster. Maybe because, WWE knows how much of a prospect Adam Cole is. And surely they wouldn't really waste him early on, but knowing how this company is, it it could have been doomed to happen. Cole's career could have had such a negative direction if he would have stood with the company as a whole. Because the main roster right now, the top heads running the main roster, they don't know what they're doing. It's either they don't know what they're doing, or they don't know what to do with so much talent. So instead, they book these, unnecessary bullshit storylines that don't really bring benefit to the actual wrestlers and the actual talent. And for that main reason, I'm glad Cole jumped ship and he went to AEW instead. I mean, just think about the dream matches that you're gonna see. Cole versus Kenny, Cole versus Darby Allin, Cole versus CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and all the other young talent like Jungle Boy, you know, Cody, Malachi Black, Miro, all these other guys that have been wrestling in AEW and have been doing a phenomenal job. It's so many matches and so many directions that they can head with Adam Cole that I'm glad that he made that particular decision. So, props to him. But aside from Punk making his spin return and Adam Cole jumping ship, we also have the surprise of Bryan Danielson. Yes, that's right. Daniel Bryan, as he was known back in WWE, is also in AEW. Yeah, that's insane to think about. We have a professional wrestling roster that includes Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, CM Punk, and Bryan Danielson. Like, what more can you want? And this might be this. Well, okay, I'm not an AEW mark. I love both companies equally. No, I'm still a WWE fan by heart, but what AEW is doing does put a smile on my face. And the fact that Bryan Danielson has made the jump as well, just I can't wait to see what they do with the man, because like I said with Cole, the amount of 5-star caliber dream matches that you're gonna get out of somebody like Bryan Danielson are gonna be second to none. And just overall the storytelling with Bryan Danielson is gonna be amazing. Bryan Danielson also being one of the most decorated technicians in recent memory. It's just a great time to be a wrestling fan. And the crazy part about this is the appearance of Bryan Danielson, the debut of Bryan Danielson, happened seconds, moments after Adam Cole came out, and it was just like like a what the type of moment, WTF? How are you gonna have Bryan Danielson come out seconds after Adam Cole debuted? And it's like no other company would have pulled that off. And that night, I mean, that was also the first AEW pay-per-view that I've watched, and the amount of emotions that ran through my body were impeccable. Seeing Adam Cole debut, and then seconds later, boom, you hear the intro to Valkyrie come out, and it's like, what the hell just happened? Type of moment, and moments like that are missed from professional wrestling. I wish there was a lot more moments like that, and I feel like AEW is hitting right on the mark when it comes to those professional moments or professional wrestling moments, and it's just a phenomenal work and a phenomenal job. So yeah, I mean, it's a great freaking time to be a wrestling fan right now. Like, we have Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, CM Punk, all in the same company, and I can't wait to see what they do with these three guys going forward. But with that being said, I would like to also touch base on what's going on in the tech world right now, because there's plenty going on, as we had the Apple 13 reveal event a few days ago. iPhone 13 was finally unveiled, and as most of the leaks were certainly true when Apple revealed this new lineup for this year, there's a few key points that I want to point out from this event that I really like. For starts, ever since COVID began, Apple has obviously been doing all these keynotes and events remotely and pre-recorded, pre-edited. And let me just say that these edits, these shows, these presentations are amazing. Apple has such great production quality when it comes to these shows that I just wanted to quickly touch base on that and mention that real quick. But let's talk about the iPhone, as this year is finally going to be the year of catch-up for Apple. As we finally, I'm going to go straight to the big boys here. We are getting ProMotion 120 hertz on an iPhone. Now, for the average consumer, you're probably like, what the heck is that? What the hell is that? Listen, if you have an Android, if you have a newer Android model, you know how smooth a variable refresh rate is on a smartphone. Pretty much, let me break it down. Variable refresh rate depicts how smooth and fluid navigation is when it comes to your display, when it comes to scrolling social media or swiping between pages on Safari. Having that big of a variable refresh rate just makes your overall experience smoother than ever. So usually on a 60 hertz phone, for example, I've been on the 10R for about almost 3 years now, and the 10R does not have that high of a refresh rate, as it's only on 60 hertz. You could tell when that comes into effect when your phone starts to glitch or freeze up whenever you're scrolling or to, swipe between pages and what have you. This is something that we've been asking for years to come to an iPhone, was a higher variable refresh rate, where, in terms of Android, they've been ahead of the game. This is something that's been happening since 2017. And the fact that it's finally coming to an iPhone definitely influenced your decision to want to upgrade to the Pros this year. Because usually, when you look at the specs and the differences between the base model and the Pro model of the lineup, people tend to go for the base model for financial reasons, for pricing reasons. It's more convenient, it's more affordable. And the base model is just as good as the Pro model, but this time around with this ProMotion 120 Hz display, it's gotta have you thinking like, damn, should I make the move this year? Should I get the Pros? And me personally, yeah, I mean, if you're tech savvy and you really care about variable refresh rate and you want to know what it feels like to have that many hertz, go for it. I mean, you're not only getting that, you're getting a massive camera update. Overall size, obviously the Pros being bigger at 6.1 inches in display, and just overall you're getting just as the same amount of value from the base model 13 to the Pro. But this year, let me just elaborate on that. It's a little different. Although I will say what I saw from the event, okay, so these are a few things that I don't necessarily agree with and kind of has me scratching my head a little bit, is the inclusivity got a little bit worse this year when it comes to the features that are available in the base model and the Pro model. Yeah, I mean, they are bumping up the core GPU performance only for the Pros. So usually everything when it comes to specs, GPU performance, CPU performance, it's the same all across the board. I mean, the base models have the same core performance in GPUs in the Pro models, but this year, the GPU core for the iPhone Pro is 5, when the core for the iPhone 13 base model is 4. And it's like, I wonder, why do you have to break the barrier in inclusivity already? Because as you know, you have things like the 120 hertz being exclusive to the Pro model. But this is more like understandable because the base model in this case does not have the display technology needed for 120 hertz. And in that case, you're like, okay, it makes sense to have 120 hertz on the Pro model because it has the right technology for it. But I don't know, man. Like having two different GPU cores is questionable, and Apple does not really specify why they did this, but they did it. And not only that, but um, so for the first time ever, for the Pro models, for all your camera people out there, for all your photographers, anyone who does filmmaking, I feel like people tend to go for the Pro for those main reasons. For the camera. So let me fill you in. As myself, I'm not really much of a camera guy when it comes to tech as a whole or smartphones. I'm more tailored to software and hardware. But this year, man, is the camera getting significant upgrades to the Pro. As we're getting things like center stage, which if you don't know what center stage is, let me fill you in. Center stage pretty much. So I'm gonna give you a scenario. You're FaceTiming a friend and you want to move to perhaps show your friend something that's in a different location to where you're at. So in order to do that, you will have to move your entire phone to the direction that you want to, show your friend. Like you want to show your friend something, you have to move your entire phone to, have the friend be able to see what you're trying to show them. But with center stage, it's a little different. Center stage is a feature that uses machine learning and very smart AI to kind of frame in how much is being shown at the camera at once, or kind of track your movements in a way. So with center stage, if I move, the camera moves with me. In this case, I don't have to move my device to show you what I'm trying to look for or to show you any other areas around me. The camera moves with me. And overall, I think that's fantastic. I mean, we've never seen anything like that on an iPhone, and the fact that you're going to be able to fit in more to the frame. Like, for example, another scenario. Let's say you have a shot of just you, right? And moments later, 2 to 3 more people come in. The center stage is going to be able to fit in the people on the frame automatically by zooming out and recentering, reframing to fit in everybody. So in this case, you don't have to move your phone back to fit everyone within the frame or move your phone forward. The camera's going to do it for you. So I feel like that's definitely going to be a groundbreaking feature from when you're FaceTiming or even just, trying to take videos on special occasions. You don't have to move your phone. The camera's going to move with you, and that alone makes for a significant camera upgrade if you're going from an older device like the 10R or anything below. But apart from the center stage, you have micro photography, which you're going to be able to take photos of objects very, very close, and micro photos of like a leaf, for example. As Apple were showcasing in their demo, they showcased a leaf, and you could see the roots of the leaf and everything up close using micro photography. And it's all inspiring. It's like, wow, like all this camera tech is more of enough of a reason to upgrade to the Pros. But honestly, I'm gonna be honest here. To anyone who's watching this or listening to this, rather, if you're deciding whether or not you want to make the jump to the iPhone 13, listen up. If you guys don't care about variable refresh rate, or if you're not really much of a camera person, if you don't really do filmmaking, you don't take enough pictures or videos, I suggest going for the base model. You're gonna get an improved battery. Oh, which also, that's another thing. The batteries have been boosted significantly this year. But with the base model, you're gonna get an improved battery nevertheless. You're going to get better cameras, better displays, as I think all the models this year across the board are going to have OLED displays, so that's a plus. You just won't have the variable refresh rate because the base model doesn't have the technology for it, the LTPO technology to have such a high refresh rate. So with the base model, you're getting a lot for your buck. And I feel like if you don't really care about all those other specs and features, go for the base model. But if you're heavy on photography, if you're a photographer and you really care about camera quality, just camera features as a whole, or you're just really passionate about 120 hertz coming to the iPhone for the first time, then I think the extra few dollars is worth spending for the pro models. But honestly, if you can't go pro, there's no there's no negative behind that. You're gonna get just as much as of an improvement with the base model as you are with the pro. And these are things that obviously Apple are not going to tell you themselves. These are things that just through speculation, honesty, you're going to know these things. So personally, if you don't care about refresh rate, if you're not big of a camera person, go for the base model. If you want to experience all the camera upgrades and all the display upgrades, then go for the pros. Spend the extra $200. Which also, that reminds you, with these phones, we are finally getting a smaller notch. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the notch is the little dark area that's located at the top, the dark bar where you have all your proximity sensors, your Face ID sensor, your front speaker for when you're making calls. Everything is pretty much placed on that notch. Now, usually, most flagship phones for the past 3 to 4 years have gone notchless. And for examples, most Androids have gone notchless. OnePlus, Samsung Galaxy, and all these other phones, Google Pixel. All these phones don't have that dark black area anymore. And unfortunately, Apple's slow to the party. Apple's slow to catch up, which is why I'm saying this is the year for catch up for Apple, and we're finally getting a smaller notch. And listen, this is very minor. So for anyone listening to this, he's like, why is he so happy for a freaking notch? Like it's just a black bar at the top. Listen. I'm a person about features. I'm a person about specs. I'm a person about design. But aesthetics, having more display at your disposal, just having more to play around with makes the phones look more aesthetically pleasing. And just overall, it shows that we're heading towards the right direction. The more futuristic direction, the more that this notch gets smaller and smaller. And it's a minor detail, like I said, but the fact that they're finally shrinking it is phenomenal. Like, I'm so happy that they're finally making this damn notch smaller and smaller as we go throughout. But yeah, I mean, that's just the iPhone. Of course, you had, can't forget about the iPad mini redesign. Of course, you had the iPad 9 announced, but it's really nothing special. They literally gave the iPad 9 ninth generation a better processor, but better quote unquote because it's only the A13 Bionic, which in today's world the A13 Bionic is a 2-year-old chip. But since this is really like an old model when it comes to the iPad, this is the OG iPad we're talking about. They're not gonna add everything significantly new to this iPad model, so why not just bump the specs up by a bit? But the good thing about this is that it's affordable, it's price friendly. It starts off at $329. So if you're looking for some sort of good working tablet, efficient tablet, and you don't want to spend over $800 the iPad 9th generation is for you. But let's talk about the iPad mini. Now the iPad mini is pretty much the OG iPad, but smaller, more comfortable with hand placement and just hands in general. They really went with a solid redesign here, as it's edge to edge display, just like the iPad Pros. there is Touch ID in the power button. Yes, that's right. Touch ID in the power button, which is this is the our first time ever for Apple. Now, this is something that's been speculated and talked about, and really on a lot of people's wish list for the phones themselves to have Touch ID in the power button, since we no longer have a home button anymore. But it definitely caught me by surprise that they're doing it with the iPad, especially the iPad mini out of all things. So, big feature come to the iPad, of course. Edge-to-edge display, like I said, a very much improved front-facing camera. I think pretty much the same front-facing camera technology that they're using on the Pros. So that's a plus there. And USB-C. Yes, the iPad mini has USB Type-C for the first time. So USB Type-C is something that was brought in with the Pros, the iPad Pros, the more higher end tablets for Apple. But they brought it to the iPad mini, so faster charge times, faster data transfer times, and just overall a better upgrade. So if you're not really into the big screens, or you think the big tablets are too much, and you just want something nice and small and compact, but with good processing power, good specs, good design overall, I think the iPad mini is for you. But overall, good stuff, good stuff. But some takeaways, or another takeaway, as I should say, and I feel like this has a lot of people talking from this Apple event, and that is the Apple Watch Series 7. Now, hear me out. We've been having the same design for the past 6 years, and for weeks and months now, it was rumored that the Apple Watch Series 7 was going to have the square rigid like the shaped design that all the iPhones have now currently, and with flat edges, bigger display. But we got the bigger display, but listen, um that's not what we got. I mean, we did not get no rigid shape, we did not get no flat flat sides, flat corners. We got the same base iPhone or Apple Watch design with a bigger display, and it's like it's the same chip. The Apple Watch Series 7 has the same exact chip as the Apple Watch Series 6, and really it's the same specs, just a little bit of improvement, because it was reported that the Apple Watch Series 7 ran into some mass production problems, and that they couldn't really fit in the actual design that was speculated or leaked on. But here's the thing though. There were so many CAD files and just images, renders, videos on this design, and it makes you wonder, were they having issues with the already existing design that they've been having for years now on the Apple Watch? Or were they really having issues with this new rigid shaped square like design that they were going to introduce with the Apple Watch? Was it or was it not ready? And the very weird part about this is that there's no set release date for the Apple Watch Series 7. And that's the weirdest part. They advertised it being coming out later this fall, and it's like, why? Like, if you're showing it off in the keynote during the Apple event, shouldn't it be almost ready? Like, shouldn't it be almost ready for release? Why are you gonna say coming out later this fall? So it makes me wonder, did they really hit massive mass production issues when they were manufacturing this watch? Or was this just another year where Apple didn't include changes to the Apple Watch? Who's to know? Who's to really know? Because you don't know. When it comes to manufacturing and factories and just production, you can't really get any information, because, as you know, those buildings, those areas are very closed, very private. So we don't really know what really happened with the Apple Watch. But those of you who want to get an Apple Watch, if you have a Series 6, Series 5, don't buy it. Don't buy the Series 7. if you're into bigger displays and all that type of stuff, I mean, they really just advertised that the display got brighter, more water resistant, more dust resistant, and that's about it. So if you have a Series 6, Series 5, stick along. So maybe hopefully next year they'll bring in the rigid squared leg design for the Apple Watch Series 8. But yeah, I mean, that was the Apple event. That was what was revealed a few days ago, and I'm more than excited. I believe I'll be making the switch to the Pro this year, but that's a very if decision because it is pricey. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, apart from Apple, I mean, there's so much going on in the tech world right now. Um, with Windows 11 having its final release, its final version coming out later this October. Windows 11, as I expressed in my last episode, the first episode of the show, has been phenomenal. I've been using Windows 11 for a few months now, or over a month now, and it's been a phenomenal experience. So the final version of Windows 11 releases later this month. Sony also had a very significant update to the PlayStation 5 system software earlier this week as we finally got SSD expansion slot storage support for the PS5. So you're going to be able to expand your SSD storage with an SSD expansion slot. And finally, people have been wanting that for months now. And just a few other just quality of life improvements. There's now trophy tracking, and you can now customize and rearrange your icons for the control center, and just overall better improvements. You can now send messages directly from the home base or the game base from the control center on PS5, which, I mean, for the 9 people that have a PS5, yes, PS5 is still having, storage issues, stock issues. A lot of people still don't have a PS5, even after 3 to 4 months after release, and it's a mess when it comes to that. But for all my PS5ers, you can now send messages directly on the game base, and I tell you, this is a massive quality of life improvements because before you will have to triple click your way to get to messages for a particular party or voice chat as they call it now. And that was annoying. You will literally have to click on the party, click on the 3 dotted menu, and then scroll all the way down and view messages. Now you can just text messages as you click one time through the game base. And I think that's pretty good. Another big hit with this update is 3D audio for TV speakers. Doesn't matter what TV you have. If you have a 4K or a TV that has a resolution of 1080p, that does not matter. There's 3D audio support for any TV. And this is going to be really groundbreaking because you're going to be able to play many different single player games, storyline based games with 3D audio coming directly from your TV. You don't need compatible headsets, you don't need any special accessories. You're going to be able to access 3D audio through your TV speakers, and that alone really sold me on this update. So if you have a PS5, and I know not a lot of people do, but if you do have one, yeah, this update is really, really big, and I hope that these features lead to a good future for Sony and PlayStation. So yeah, that's the buzz within the tech world right now, and just everything going on. But I also want to discuss now. We're gonna shift gears to the disability side, and unfortunately, this was a big discussion that I wanted to have with my friend because he can heavily relate to it. But eventually, when he comes into the show, he's gonna express his overall experiences and just effects and just how it affects his day-to-day life. And I'm talking about ADHD. This is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. This is a disorder that really affects the overall neurological ability of a lot of people who have this disorder, it makes them really hard to focus, to really have a good attention span, and really just be active, be focused, and be in the world that everyone else. And I feel like when you talk about ADHD, you think of people being in their own world, people not being able to focus, people not being able to remember a lot of things, and it's true. And I feel like this is one of the disabilities that really take a toll on just mental state as a whole, because you don't have the you don't have the focus, the neurological ability that a lot of people who don't have ADHD do. And it really affects families and friends, those closest to you who have ADHD. And it's one of those things where it's like, how do I combat it? How do I fight it? And like I said, this is something that I would have rather spoken on with my friend who was the co-host, because he has more experience on it. But I'm just gonna briefly give my thoughts just to end off the episode here. ADHD, much like every other disability, is not an easy thing to live with, and I feel for anyone who has ADHD or really any mental or neurological disability, it makes it hard to focus. It makes it hard really to interact with most people, to remember most things, and just to pay attention as a whole. And I just wanted to express my gratitude on that as well. So, yeah, this has been episode 2 of Talkative by myself this time around again. Believe me when I say it's not easy. This has been a very slow process when it comes to this podcast. But we're trying to get these episodes out for you guys. We're just trying to build an audience overall. And before I forget, I usually like to end these episodes off with a disability of the week or disability of the episode. Um, and let me just pull that up briefly. But yes, this has been episode 2. Thank you for anyone who's been listening and just enjoying the episodes. I hope you guys have been enjoying the quality of these episodes, especially with it just being me for now until we get everything sorted, which is schedule, and just being able to fit in me and my co-host for these episodes, as I want to get more of these out. But we're trying. We're really trying our best here. But thank you for joining me here today for this episode, as we have for disability fact number 2. Most musculoskeletal and connective tissue disorders and diseases are the number one cause of disability. Diseases of the nervous system and sensory organs are the number 2 cause of a disability. So that's the disability fact of the episode. Thank you for joining me here today. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've had a good time listening. I hope you found this entertaining. And we'll see you guys for episode 3 of Talkative as soon as we get everything arranged. Thank you, and God bless, and have a good day. See you soon.